everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Alex and today I'm going to be bringing you my January TBR. Now, first of all, apologies for a couple different things. I'm sure the lighting is not the best. It's really rainy and dreary here, but this is the only day that I have to film this video. And also my voice might be a little bit nasally, a little bit disgusting because I've been getting over a cold. So just bear with me. We're going to try to make this one short and sweet and just get through the books that I'm planning to read in January. Before we get started, if you're new here and you're not already, be sure to go down and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell icon down below so that you never miss out on any of my content. And without further ado, let's get started. Now, throughout this video, you're going to be hearing a lot about the goals that I mentioned in my 2020 reading goals video. If you haven't seen that yet, I will leave a card to it up above. But in that video, I talked a lot about how my TBR format is going to be changing based on the goals that I have set for myself in the year 2020. So in that video, I mentioned that I want to take the months of January through July and reread the Harry Potter series. So I will, of course, be starting off with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I am so excited to be getting back into this. Like I mentioned in that video, I have not read this series since my senior year of high school. It's the first and only time that I've ever read it. I was 17 years old. I'm 24 now, and I'm very excited to be going back into this world. And I'm glad that this one is the smallest one in the series because I need something smaller in the beginning of the year because this TBR got a little bit overambitious. I don't think that I really need to say anything about what Harry Potter's about. Everybody knows by now, but regardless, just excited to get back into this and to read it out of this gorgeous edition. I also mentioned in my goals video that I want to prioritize rereads this year, and I'm not going to put a number on it. Ideally, I would like to do one a month, but I'm not pressuring myself to do that. But I am doing a buddy read this month with my friend Kirsty, and we are going to be reading The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. It will be her first time reading it, but it will be a reread for me, so it will be interesting to get to experience the story again and talk about it with a friend. So if you're unfamiliar with The Book Thief, it is a World War II historical fiction novel that is narrated by Death. And the story itself follows our main character, Liesel, who is a young German girl in the midst of World War II, and her family winds up taking in and hiding a Jew. And throughout all that, Liesel has also been stealing books throughout the war, hence the name of The Book Thief. This is one that I really enjoyed the first time I read it. I don't remember if it was earlier in 2019 or if it was in 2018 that I first read it, but regardless, I did enjoy it and I'm excited to be revisiting it. I also really want to watch the movie after I read it this time because I have never seen the movie, so I'm intrigued. I also mentioned that I want to keep up with my new releases, and for the purposes of my TBRs, I'm going to consider a new release to be a book that was published in the last 3 months. So for the purposes of my TBR for January, a new release is going to be a book that was published in October, November, or December. So for my new release for January, I'm going to be picking up The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, which was released in November. Now, to be honest, I still don't have a very good grasp of what this story is about. I believe that it is really story-based, book-based. I think it's about a boy who either goes into a book or he reads a book that's about his life. I'm not 100% sure on it, and I don't really want to know a whole lot. I just want to go into it kind of blind and just trusting Erin Morgenstern. I really love The Night Circus by her, as I know a lot of us did. I'm excited to read this one as well. And my last goal that I want to talk about before I get into my 2 TBR jars is I want to keep up with my arcs. So I'm going to be reading arcs that are either published in January or February. So I've got 3 arcs that I want to tackle in the month of January. 1 is being published in January and 2 are being published in February. So the first arc that I'm going to get to in the month, and probably the first book that I'm going to read in 2020, is A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kimmerer. This is the sequel to A Curse So Dark and Lonely, and it's set to publish on January 7th. So if I want to read it by release date, I need to get on it now. I received an e-arc of this book through Edelweiss, and I'm really excited to get to it. A Curse So Dark and Lonely I read back in November, and I really enjoyed it. It was a big surprise to me how much I actually wound up liking it. But essentially, A Curse So Dark and Lonely is a Beauty and the Beast retelling that follows our main characters, Prince Rin and Harper. I loved their dynamic in the first book. I loved the way that the retelling was done. There is also some really good representation in here as Harper has cerebral palsy, and I cannot speak personally to that representation, but I have heard Own Voices reviews that say that they really liked the way that that part of the story was done. So regardless, I really am excited for this novel, and the last one left off in a big cliffhanger that I'm excited to see pick back up in this sequel. The next arc that I want to read in January is The Opposite of Falling Apart by Micah Good, and this one comes out on February 25th. So this movie follows our main characters, Jonas and Brennan, and they are about to go off to college. It's their last summer before they leave, and Jonas is very excited to leave. He has been through a lot. Jonas lost his leg in a car accident, and he just wants to get away from his hometown and get away from the memories associated with that and start over brand new in college. However, Brennan is really anxious about going. Even just the thought of leaving her hometown really triggers her anxiety, and she does not want to go. Well, Jonas and Brennan meet during the summer, and they find out a lot about each other and fall in love love in the process. I haven't heard any early reviews from this one, but I'm going in cautiously optimistic. This was originally published on Wattpad, and I find that Wattpad novels are really hit or miss for me, and to be completely honest, they're usually a miss. So I'm hoping that this one is going to be really good and that it had a really good editor before it was traditionally published, so fingers crossed, we'll see what happens. The last arc that I have to read in January is The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow, which is also coming out on February 25th. So this novel is set in the near future, and 2 years prior to the start of the novel, Earth was invaded by this alien species who killed off 1/3 of the world's population. So we follow our main character, Ellie, who is living in New York City, and the city is being controlled by this alien race, and the aliens have decided that all art forms are now illegal because the humans are too volatile and it's too much emotion in these art forms, but Ellie loves books and she keeps a secret library even though it's against the law, and one day one of the books in her library goes missing and she starts freaking out. We also follow our main character, Morris, and I'm not exactly sure if he is an alien or a robot or what he is. The synopsis just says that he is born in a lab, and he winds up finding Ellie's secret library, and he knows that it's wrong and he's supposed to report her, but he finds himself increasingly drawn to human music and art, and I think the story just kind of unfolds from there. This is a debut novel by this author, and the premise sounds really, really interesting, but it also sounds really ambitious. So this is another one that I'm kind of going into cautiously optimistic, but I am excited. This sounds like one that might be right up my alley. So now I'm going to be getting into the 2 TBR jars that I mentioned back in my goals video. The first one is going to be a series jar. So I have a bunch of unfinished series, and I have taken the names of all the series that I plan to continue, put them into a jar, and we're going to pull one out and see which one that I'm going to be continuing in the month of January. I will say, in this jar, I'm going to be pulling one a month, and there are way more than 12 series in here, but we're just going to see how it goes. All right, so let's see what series I am continuing in January. Okay, what is it? Ooh, The Folk of the Air. So in January, I'm going to be finishing off the Folk of the Air trilogy by reading The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This is actually really good timing because I just picked this up in my December Book of the Month YA box, and this is a new release. I think this came out at the end of November, so if I actually don't wind up getting to the Starless Sea, this would still fit in for my new release category, which is really nice. But this is the third and final book to the Folk of the Air trilogy. A ton of people have been talking about this one lately, and it's just barely 300 pages, so it's not as intimidating as I thought it would be. Okay, and the last jar that I'm going to be pulling from is my genre jar. So I have 12 slips of paper in a different TBR jar, and they each talk about a genre that I don't typically read. I did go back earlier today and watch my goals video, and I realized that I accidentally listed nonfiction twice. So I have 6 genres in this jar, and they are nonfiction, adult romance, adult fantasy, sci-fi, literary fiction, and mystery thriller. So I'm gonna pull one of the genres out of this jar, and whichever one I pick, I'm gonna pick 3 books from that genre to read in the month of January. So let's figure out what genre we will be focusing on. I'd really like mystery thriller. Okay, what do we get? Woo! Mystery thriller! So for my first pick for mystery thriller, I think I'm gonna pick up The Passengers by John Mars. This is one that I have heard a lot of people rave about in the year of 2019, so I'm really intrigued by this one. I've never read anything by John Mars before, but The Passengers and The One seem to be his most popular, so I'm gonna start out with The Passengers. So this book essentially is set in this, I don't know if it's a futuristic society or if it's an alternate reality, but I know that there are self-driving cars, and I think that a hacker breaks into the system that is operating these self-driving cars, and these people are having their cars taken over, and it becomes almost like this reality show where everybody is watching these cars with these passengers inside, and the cars are going out of control, and the audience has to decide which car is going to crash and who lives or dies. I'm not 100% sure on the synopsis, but regardless, this one just sounds really, really intriguing, and I have heard absolutely nothing but good things, so I'm excited to jump into it. So for my second mystery thriller for January, I'm going to pick up My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This is one that I have also heard really, really good things about. It is essentially a domestic thriller that follows this couple who has been married for a while, and they find that their relationship is kind of in a rut. So in order to spice things up, they start killing people. I don't really need to know much more than that. That sounds really interesting to me, and the thrillers that I have read in the past, I find that I really enjoy domestic thrillers, so hopefully this one will be good as well. I'll have to talk through the end of this fast because I'm running out of storage. And finally, I want to pick up The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. This is is one that has taken the mystery thriller world by storm in 2019, and it won the Goodreads Choice Awards for Best Mystery Thriller. I know a lot of that is probably a popularity contest, but it does have over 4 stars average rating on Goodreads out of like 20,000 reviews, so I'm gonna take that as a good sign. So essentially this book follows our main character who one day her husband comes home from work and she shoots him 5 times in the face and then she never talks again. And we also get to hear from the criminal psychoanalyst who thinks that he's gonna be able to get her to talk again. So I don't usually need to know a ton going into my mystery thrillers, but I have heard a lot of good things about this one from people that I know and trust, so I'm hoping that it's gonna satisfy me in January. I think I may also listen to the audiobook of Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray in January, but we'll see what happens. So that is it for my January TBR. If you have read any of the books that I mentioned today, leave your thoughts in the comments down below and let me know some books that you're planning to read in January. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, as well as hitting the subscribe button and the bell icon down below so that you never miss out on any of my content. So until next time, bye!